video is brought to you by AKS IAS.
Welcome to AKS Daily News Analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated 5th February 2020 of Hyderabad edition. The first article taken up for discussion is taken from the page number 1, and here the Supreme Court on Tuesday gave the Tamil Nadu Speaker Dhanapal a week's time in order to inform when he will take cognizance of the disqualification petition which was filed under the 10th schedule, that is anti-defection law, against the Deputy CM Selvam and 10 others of belonging to the AIDMK MLAs for voting against the confidence motion moved by the Chief Minister Edappadi Palaswamy in February 2017. The court questioned the Speaker's inaction, repeatedly asking why he kept the disqualification petition pending for the whole 3 years and without even issuing a notice. So here they say that the 3 years delay was unnecessary and the Speaker needed to take action. If there is inaction on the part of Speaker, it has to be cured. So the question here is, can the Supreme Court or the High Court question on the inaction of the Speaker? Of course, there is nothing that the Supreme Court can do about the Speaker deciding to do it or to take cognizance of the anti-defection pleas or not. But here the Supreme Court has specified that the Supreme Court needs to take cognizance if he keeps them pending. And when they put the question regarding the pending, that Mr. Narayan has replied that there were multiple forums, including the Election Commission of India, even the High Court and Supreme Court were engaged in the dispute over the 3 years, and the Speaker, that's why he has simply decided to wait for the outcome of these litigations. He went on to say that the 10th scheduled petitions were filed against the Mr. Selvam and 10 other MLAs represented by the advocate Balaji Srinivasan for defying the party whip on March 20, 2017. However, before the Speaker could proceed, the Election Commission of India recognized Selvam faction as a separate group on March 23rd, and subsequently this Selvam group faction merged with the AIDMK on August 20. So the Election Commission of India has declared the duo as the leader of AIDMK. That's why, because of all these issues that are coming up, the Speaker could not take the decision for over 3 years. So as of today in Constitution, there is no law to say that the Speaker need to take within this time period that he has to talk about the anti-defection law. But yet in 2020, Supreme Court led bench, 3-judge bench, which was led by Rohinton Nariman, has directed the speakers to decide on the anti-defection law within the 3 months of time period. But the senior advocate Mukul Rohtaki led counsel for the MLA said that the Justice Nariman's judgment that the Speaker has to talk or decide within the 3 months is not valid, because the question of whether the Constitutional Court could judicially review the inaction of the Speaker has been referred to the higher judges case called as 5 judges case in 2016 in Sampath Kumar case. But yet this was successfully contained by Mr. Kapil Sibal, saying that the Nariman-led jurisdiction was having 3 judges, whereas in Sampath Kumar case the judges were only 2 because it was decided by the higher judges. So the thing what was taken by the Nariman is valid, but yet he said that the failure of the Speaker to exercise his jurisdiction will obviously attract the judicial review which is given in the Constitution itself. So talking about here about the 10th schedule and the anti-defection law, it provides the grounds for the disqualification on the grounds of defection. There are 4 grounds laid down in the Constitution about the defection. The first one being if the candidate itself voluntarily gives up his membership of the political party on whose ticket he was elected to the ground. And the second ground here is that if he votes or abstains from voting in the house in the contrary to the any direction given by the political party. So the case here is regarding the second one, where the Pannirselvam group has defected the whip's order, and the third here is if any independently elected member joins any political party, and the fourth one is if any nominated member joins any political party after the expiry of 6 months. So the second one here was the ground for the basis, and here the Speaker of Tamil Nadu has not yet decided the case, although they have not abstained from voting the Pannirselvam and the 10 MLAs, and it's been 3 years that they haven't yet decided, the speaker has not yet decided on the anti-defection law. So here the powers of the speaker are not absolute in the sense, but yet he is the one who decides on the anti-defection law, and whatever the decision has been taken by the speaker, it is subjected to the judicial review that the Kapil Sibal here was referring. Coming to the second important article is about the finance minister's Harappan reference, which has puzzled many historians, because till now we have learned in the history that the Harappan civilization, we are calling them civilization because these people knew the art of writing, but yet whatever they have written is not yet deciphered by us. So the important thing to remember here is that only when people know the art of writing, we call them as civilizations, right? But yet as like comparatively to the contemporary histories during that time, or the contemporary civilization during that time, that is Mesopotamian or the Chinese civilization, the Harappan civilization script was not yet deciphered, right? We all have been listening to this right from our NCERT books, but yet in the second budget speech on Saturday, our finance minister has used information from the Harappan seals in order to claim that the India's maritime trade was existing from few million years ago, right? So if we see on the whole, while India's maritime trade in the historic period is quite well known, what left the historians puzzled is that ministers' use of word and their meaning from the seals, right? So instead she could have told about the Dilman and Makan that is given even in the NCERTs about the true trading posts which were mentioned in the Mesopotamian scripts, through which we are able to know that there was kind of maritime trade between the Mesopotamians and the Indus Valley civilizations. But here the seals which were mostly used by the people in order to do the trade, what is written on the seals is till today we could not yet decipher. Mostly they were pictorial in nature, and this script what was used, we cannot even have some kind of similar scripts even then, right? So but yet the finance minister has used so much of meanings and so much words referring to the Saraswati Sindhu civilization and the Harappan seals dating back to 3300 BCE. Here she talked about the Takkara Kolimi, which means tinsmithery, Straini, which means gill, Sethi means wholesale merchant, and Podar means ISR of metal into the treasury. So all the historians here are actually trying to debate, saying that the script of Harappan was not yet deciphered satisfactorily, but there are some claims, but they are not accepted by all the scientists. Another historians have dismissed the claim about the decipherment of the script, saying that the language spoken by the people was not yet known unless we get a clue like Rosetta Stone or the multiple Cunha stones in one location. The language may still remain untranslated. So the gills here, what she has mentioned, all these words that she has mentioned, especially the word strainy, which means gill, is used by the finance minister, can somehow be traced to the recent published paper by S. Kalyana Raman in 2016, but yet this Kalyana Raman script is not yet accepted by all the historians. Incidentally, if we see, even in 2019, it was a bumper year for the decipherment of Indus script, with 4 authors registering their books for publications with the Rajaram Mohan Rai National Agency for ISBN. So the scholars here are facing lot of hurdles, especially in the decipherment of the script. One is that if we see the Brahmi script, the oldest script which was deciphered is the Brahmi script used in the Ashokan inscriptions. This Brahmi script can somehow be related to the Devangiri script, and using this as a key, the decipherment of Brahmi script was used for the Ashokan edicts. But when coming to the Indus Valley civilization, the link is broken and this civilization words does not match any modern script. This is the first problem or the hurdle in decipherment of the Indus Valley civilization, and the second here being the we do not know their language. So we do not even know whether this present script is written from right to left or left to right. So in this case, these are the hurdles which are being faced by the Indus Valley civilization. But yet one notable example of an attempt to decipher the Indus script was made by S.R. Rao, who discovered the Lothal site in Harappan civilization. But today if we see, the government is also thinking of making a maritime museum in Lothal in the recent budget. So the next article taken up for discussion is from page number 7. The article here is saying that out of the 100 Anganwadi beneficiaries, there are only 7 in the cities. And as of today, there are only 55 lakh registered for the scheme at the urban centers. This is primarily because of the several lack of Anganwadis in the cities, which is leading to the poor coverage of the government's flagship program in the early childhood development. If we talk about the Anganwadis or the daycare centers that are usually set up under the ICDS, which means Integrated Child Development Service by the Women and Child Development Ministry, there are 6 services that are provided by this Anganwadi or the daycare centers. The first one being the supplementary nutrition for the children and the preschool as well as the non-formal education to be imparted as a part of this program. The third one being the immunization, and the fourth and fifth one is to provide the nutrition as well as the health education, and the sixth one any kind of referral services. The main aim of this integrated child development service is to, in order to decrease the IMR, that is infant mortality rate, and the child malnutrition. So beneficiaries in this scheme includes children in the age group from 6 months to the 6 years, and the pregnant and lactating women. So under this scheme, if we see as of today, there are total 7.95 crore members who have been registered for the scheme, and out of this there are only 55 lakh members who were registered at the urban Anganwadis. The prime reason here is because of the acute paucity of Anganwadi centers in the urban areas. There are as many as 13.79 lakh Anganwadis which are operational across the country, and out of this only 9.31 lakh centers are linked to the government's web-enabled data entry systems, which is called as rapid reporting system. And through this rapid reporting system is that we have been seeing about the Anganwadis, if they are giving the proper nutrition to the children who are coming or the pregnant and lactating women. This is part of the transparency thing that they wanted to bring into the ICDS system. So this rapid reporting system has facilitated the better transparency, and of the Anganwadis that are being monitored online, only 1.09 lakh centers are in the urban areas and remaining are in the rural areas. So as per the census, if we see, there are 32% of Indians who are living out of the 1.2 billion population are living in the cities. Through experts have said that if the definition of urban settlement was broadened, the share, that is, it may increase even from the 32% to around 50% in the cities. So a recent first of its kind pan-India study on nutrition status on the comprehensive national nutrition survey, which was conducted in 2016 to 18, has said that there were around 17% of children was considered as wasted, and 35% of the children were stunted in the age group of 0 to 5. The survey also has said that 22% of the children in the age group of 5 to 9 years were stunted, and 23% of them were all in this age group. So also 20% of those in the age group of 10 to 19 years of age group were thin for their age. So all these facts before it, the Niti Aayog has prepared a draft working paper in order to strengthen this ICDS program in the urban areas, keeping in mind challenges such as migration as well as the population density. So the next article is taken from the editorial page. The article here is talking about the continuity and the physical follow through. The 15th Financial Commission by and large has gone with the approach and methodologies of the earlier commissions. Coming to the Finance Commission, we know that under Article 280, the Finance Commission is constituted by the President of India, with one will be the chairman and the other 4 members will be its members. So the 15th Finance Commission's chairman is N.K. Singh, that is Nandkishore Singh, and on November 27, 2017, the President has notified the appointment of the Finance Commission, and it was required to submit a report by October 30th October 2019 for a period of 2020 to 21 and 5 years, that means up till 2024 to 25. But however, due to various political and physical development notifications were issued first on July 27th, extending the tenure of the commission, and again in November they were required to submit 2 reports. Instead of earlier the finance commissions who used to submit only 1 report, in November the government has given a notification saying that the present finance commission need to give 2 reports, as of one in the 2020 to 21 and the second one for a period of 5 years, whole 5 years, starting with 1st April 2001 to 25. So in line, the Finance Commission has given its first report, which was submitted by the Commission. It was placed in the Parliament by the Union Finance Minister before presenting the Union Budget. So they were good. Why did such things happen? First, let us answer this question. Why was the reason that there was so much of delay? And then talking about the 2 reports to be given. Here the article goes on to say that there were a good number of reasons for the extending the term of the Finance Commission as to make the medium term projections in the current scenario would be established serious risk. First, they say it is mainly because of the abolition of the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. So now the commission is required to make an estimation excluding this union territory. And the second is because of the deceleration in the growth, and there is a low inflation which has substantially slowed down the nominal GDP, right? So which is the main tax proxy. So making projections of tax revenues and expenditure based on this slow or the nominal GDP for the medium term could have posed serious risk. And finally, poor revenue performance of the tax collection, and more particularly because of the bringing of GST combined with the fact that the compensation agreement to the loss of revenue to the state was effectively only for 2 years, right, of the period covered by the commission's recommendation. Post all these uncertainties, for these 3 reasons they have divided, or they have not given up the 5-year period physical report that was needed from the Finance Commission. So coming to the projections, the Finance Commission has followed the same approach and the methodology which was adopted by the previous commissions for tax devolution as well as the revenue grab grants. So even this has made the projections of revenue as well as the revenue expenditures of the union and the individual states, and it has applied the selective norms to the individual states, recommended the devolution of taxes to the states from the divisible pool, and recommended that the revenue deficit grants for the states which are post devolution gaps. But although there were apprehensions that it may deviate from the past practice in terms of the reference of the commission as indicated, but yet if we examine the commission's report this year, it has almost followed the same kind of footsteps that were given by the last finance commissions. And this finance commission may also examine whether the revenue deficit grants to be provided to the states or not. There is a huge question on this aspect that they are trying to consider it. Now, by stating that the Finance Commission has stated that the stability and predictability of the resources is very, very important for any kind of the resource devolutions that the commission may consider, because of the component of long term good budgeting for both union and states. So this 15th Finance Commission continued with the recommendations of the previous commissions relating to the vertical division of taxes, and it has adjusted the state share to 41% because it has to exclude the Jammu and Kashmir. But yet there were a lot of media reports saying that the share would be reduced, and by maintaining the share the commission has avoided controversy, right? So it is just giving 41, earlier it was 42%, and because it had to exclude Jammu and Kashmir, they have maintained the vertical devolution. But however, if we see for the 5-year period that they have to talk in the second component that we have talked, the commission has recommended in the final report that it will undergo a lot of changes and adjustments will be brought about as to see in the light of subsequent data and analysis. Coming to the horizontal division of the share, the present commission has changed the definition or the formula for the horizontal share in order to consider the physical needs as well as equity and efficiency, and here where it has gone away from the earlier Finance Commission's recommendations. If we see on the whole, in addition to the income distance which was given even followed by the previous Finance Commissions, income distance, population, area and forest cover, now this has used two additional factors, namely demographic performance and tax effort. If we see the weightage, they have decreased the income distance to 45%, whereas the population of 2011 has been given the percentage of 15%, whereas area and forest cover is assigned the 10%. Demographic performance of the states is given 12.5%, and the tax effects of the income if individual states is given 2.5%. Now the commission, using only the 2011 demographic population, especially by the South Indian states which have initiated to arrest the population growth. So keeping the weight of 2011 population to 15% and giving an additional of 12.5% to the demographic performance, which is very inverse to the fertility rate, right? And the commission has shown sensitivity to the concerns of the states. So in terms of relative share in the tax devolution, among the major states, the biggest loser will be Karnataka, followed by the Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. If we see, Kerala and Andhra Pradesh have post devolution gaps and hence quality for revenue gap grants they will get. The major reason for Karnataka and Kerala losing on devolution is that their per capita income growth has been faster than the most of the other states, and the difference from the highest per capita income in both compared to the Karnataka and Kerala is about 10% as now compared to the 34% and 23%. So all this shows that these two states, when the 14th Finance Commission made the recommendation, in case of Karnataka and Telangana as projected, transfer or the devolution of revenue grants in 2020 to 21 were lower when compared to the 2019 and 20. So the commission recommended a special grant of around 5,495 crore and 723 crores to Karnataka and Telangana respectively. And as a part of the Finance Commission's recommendations onto the local bodies, and it has given an amount of 90,000 crores, comprising of 60,000 within this to the panchayats and the rest amount to the municipal bodies. So here all the three layers of the panchayat will receive a grant of around 50% of the grant is tied in order to improve the sanitation and the supply of drinking water. The remaining 50% is untied. So in case of municipal bodies, 9,222 crore is allocated to the cities who are having a population of million plus, and the remaining 20 is allocated to the other towns. So in case of disaster relief, the commission has told that the creation of disaster mitigation fund at the central as well as the state levels For disaster management, a total of 28,183 crore has been determined, of which central contribution will come around 22,184 crore. So the interstate allocation is also based on the past expenditure, area and the population, as well as the disaster risk index. So the commission has worked out a framework for giving some sectoral grants as well. For 2020, it has recommended certain amount for the improving of nutrition based on number of children in the age group of 0 to 6 age group and the lactating mothers. In the main report, he has proposed to give grants for police and the police training, modernization and housing, railway projects in states taken on the account of cost sharing basis, and the maintenance of Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana in order to strengthen the judicial system and improving the statistical system. So now on the whole, the states are required to prepare a necessary grounds. It has also presented a broad framework for recommending the monitoring the performance grants for agriculture reforms, development of aspirational districts and blocks, power sector incentives in order to enhance the trading including exports and pre-primary education. And the challenge is, however, will be in order to design and devote sectoral and performance grants with the existing plethora of central sector and the central sponsored schemes. So coming to the next article about the beyond preparedness, here they're talking about the disaster when they're talking about the beyond preparedness. So they say that long-term recovery is a key aspect of disaster management, but it is a neglect in the act. So recent reports have said that the cabinet will be taking up the proposal in order to amend the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Right, this Disaster Management Act mainly focuses on the improving the preparedness and to providing the immediate relief and protecting the infrastructure. But however, this present act neglects the long-term recovery, which should have been the reason implemented in the Disaster Management Act of 2005. So this Disaster Management Act was enacted in order to effectively prevent, mitigate and to prepare for disasters, and it came into being after the three major disasters in the Indian subcontinent, mainly 1999 super cyclone which hit the Odisha, 2001 Bhuj earthquake and 2004 tsunami. So this act which came after these three major disasters, it has mandated for the creation of NDMA that we all know, that is National Disaster Management Act Authority and State Disaster Management Authority, as well as the District Disaster Management Authority. Right, so this act has laid down the framework, roles and responsibilities of all these three bodies to formulate and implement the disaster management plans up till their level. This Act of Disaster Management 2005 has rightly emphasized the need to move from responding to disasters to effective preparedness, which has led to most states investing in resilient infrastructure, early warning systems, and as well as the evacuation or the massive evacuation exercise which are being taken by the states. But however, steps towards recovery and rehabilitation of disaster affected people are hardly discussed. So how this imbalance in priorities shaped the Disaster Management Act of 2005, if we see, this act enormous emphasis is mainly on the preparedness. It just emphasizes much on the preparedness, and this preparedness has translated into the establishing of timely warning systems or the relief shelters that were provided, as well as the massive evacuation exercises. So all these three steps, although it has reduced the casualties, further the National Disaster Response Fund as well as the State Disaster Response Fund have helped guided in the immediate relief in the post aftermath disaster, but yet the post disaster rehabilitation and recovery were left to respective ministries and departments. So however, only select states like Andhra Pradesh, Kerala or Odisha have departmental level disaster management plans. This inconsistent manner of implementation, it is very akin to the how the disaster management plan action which is to be enacted in the year 2016. So now they have come up with a novel idea in order to integrate the post-disaster rehabilitation measures with the existing development scheme. Like if we see that Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which was actually streamlined with the state disaster management response. So if in disaster, if somebody is losing the house, they would streamline it with Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in order to build their houses. For instance, if we see that after the post-disaster housing reconstruction activities in Odisha, they have been aligned with the central and state housing schemes. Example, this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. But the evidence from research in Odisha are showing that the Pakka houses which were built under this housing scheme were in a very depleted or inhabited in several places because of the cost association with the reconstruction. So the scholarship on disaster management conceptualizes recovery as an action taken in order to rebuild lives in one of the hazardous situations has passed. However, there has been commonly interpreted as just providing food that we see usually whenever the disaster is happening, food, water, or just medicines. But what happens after even the incidences in every state have moved beyond this long-term recovery measures and have largely focused on just addressing the physical needs of the person during that time, but there is no kind of interventions which are very crucial about the long term recovery needs much more. But it is tricky because everyday vulnerabilities stemming from poverty are accentuated in the recurring hazards. So the article here is talking about the Pak.Parliament which has passed a resolution on the Kashmir. We have successfully abated the EU which was to pass the resolution on India. But yet if we see Pakistan Parliament on Tuesday has unanimously passed a resolution expressing the unflinching and unwavering support to the Kashmir people and demanding that India need to reverse its decision in order to revoke the special status to the Jammu and Kashmir which was guaranteed under the Article 370. So the National Assembly or the lower house of the Pakistan has passed the resolution on the eve, and Pakistan observes as Feb 5th as Kashmir Solidarity Day. So this resolution was mainly passed in order to demand India in order to reverse its actions which were taken on August 5th and October 31st, repealing the draconian laws, withdraw its forces and immediately lift lockdown in the valley. So already we have seen that there are tensions between India and Pakistan have been spiked since the India has abrogated this Article 317 of the Constitution in order to remove the special status to the Jammu and Kashmir. So India's decision evoked strong reaction from Pakistan, which downgraded diplomatic ties and also expelled the Indian envoy. And India has categorically told the international community that its move in order to scrap the Article 370 of the Constitution, revoking the special status to the Jammu and Kashmir, was the internal matter and advised the Pakistan to accept the reality. So the article here is talking about the Bhutan which has ended the free entry for the Indian tourists. Earlier it was any Indians could travel to Bhutan without any kind of entry fees, but yet the Bhutan government has decided to end this free entry to the Indian tourists who are visiting the Bhutan, and the government in Thimphu has decided that it is going to levy a daily fee of 1200 rupees for the people who are visiting from India. That is comes around $17, which is comparatively very less to the other tourists who are coming from the other countries other than the regional tourists. Here within the definition of regional tourists comes Indians, Bangladeshis and Maldives. They will be charged just amount of $17, whereas coming from the other regions they will be charged 65 rupees from the July 2020. This charge money will go into the sustainable development fee, and the main aim of this is to help the government in order to deal with the too much number of tourist traffic which is seeking to regulate through the new tourism policy. Now this decision was taken up, and if you comparatively see, Mainly, Indians travel to the more developed western region of the Bhutan, and in order to promote the tourism in the Bhutan's eastern region as well, the government has decided to drop this sustainable development fee for the 11 districts of the total 20 districts that fall in the east of Bhutan, namely from east of Trongsa to Trisigang.